The Tau commander known as Chasseur Viola Shova Kaist-Montier, or simply as Commander Farsight to Imperial forces, is one of the most infamous members of the entire Tau race. Farsight was once a high-ranking Firecast commander within the Tau Empire, leading what would become known as the Farsight Expedition, which was launched in response to the Imperium of Man's Damocles Crusade. Following the events that unfurled upon the world of Arthas Moloch, Farsight, after realizing that the leaders of Tau society, the enigmatic ethereal caste, was hiding the truth in regards to the threat of chaos from the rest of Tau society. Following the conflict upon Arthas Moloch, Farsight refused to return to Tau space, and would instead establish a separate and entirely independent Tau society that would become known as the Farsight Enclaves to the Imperium, and the Forbidden Zone to the Tau Empire. However, during the initial Farsight expedition, something unexpected happened. Farsight began to suffer from what could only be described as visions of future events. When Farsight's flagship, the Dawn Pioneer, was attacked by the Space Marines of the Scarlords chapter, Farsight, using a prototype Cold Star battlesuit, boarded the Astartes flagship, the Scabbard, in a desperate attempt to destroy it. To do this, Farsight made his way to the ship's engine deck and damaged the warp drives, causing a demonic infestation to erupt upon the ship. Being within the presence of these demons caused Farsight to suffer from intense nausea and crippling migraines, which in turn caused him to pass out when his first vision would come to him.
For a moment, Farsight saw Shadow Sun's face. She was gazing up at him with undiluted trust and respect. Then her eyes widened, and her expression became that of utmost hatred. She raised a pair of fusion blasters and pointed them right at him. He could not move aside, for here he was, a statue of stone, rigid and immobile. Millions of Firecast voices were united in a great roar of approval as she blasted him to pieces. Farsight's soul spiraled through a sea of multicolored energy, crashing down on a dusty world of broken relics that filled him with a sense of impending doom. Priceless treasures lay scattered in the marble dust. Suddenly a massive, saber-like blade grew warm in his hand. A sense of thirsting malevolence radiated up from its strange metal. His eyes fell upon a hexagrammatic shape nearby. A medallion hung around the neck of a saintly statue. Somehow it called to him. He grasped it and awoke.
Farsight would also suffer from another set of migraines before a second vision would come to him when Farsight battled against the demonically possessed Pormalkaol. As we can see, while open to interpretation, these excerpts from the first vision do seem to correspond to later events that would happen within Farsight's life. The first seems to be a vision of the destruction of Farsight's statue upon the Tau Sept world of Viola by Commander Shadowsun, just before the launch of the Third Sphere expansion. While the final part of this particular vision is a seeming reference to when Farsight would acquire the Dawnblade upon the world of Arthas Moloch. The second vision Farsight would suffer from would seemingly make references to the War of Daka, which pitted the forces of the Tau Empire against the Orc war boss Grog Ironteeth, as well as the invading Tyrannid forces of High Fleet Behemoth. Because of these visions that have a strong correlation to future events, does this mean that Farsight himself was a latent Psyker? For clarification, latent Psykers are those individuals whose own psychic potential manifests not from birth, but later on in their lives. But if Farsight was indeed a latent Psyker, then how could such a thing have occurred, seeing as, officially, the Tau have no Psykers of any kind? One such possibility is that Farsight had simply, for a lack of a better term, evolved to become a Psyker. A notable aspect about Tau physiology is that they have lives that are remarkably short for a sentient race. The average lifespans of the Tau vary from caste to caste, with the ethereal caste seemingly living the longest, with one known female specimen being approximately 49 Terran Standard years when their remains were examined. An important thing to note about creatures with a shorter lifespan is that they tend to evolve at a much faster rate compared to creatures that have longer lifespans. More specifically, the time to reach reproductive viability is the primary factor in this regard. It's for this reason that many experiments in regards to evolution involve the use of fruit flies due to their short lifespan of approximately 40 to 50 days and rapid reproductive ability. The Tau themselves have also been known to achieve a Stone Age civilization when they were first discovered in 789 M35. While the exact lifespan of a fire caste warrior, which is the caste Farsight himself belongs to, is unknown, it's not unreasonable to assume that, from an evolutionary standpoint, the Tau could have begun taking their first steps towards their evolution into becoming a psychic race. After all, the very first Psykers to appear within the human species occurred prior to the birth of the Emperor of Mankind, with the individuals known as the Shamans. The Shamans first appeared early in humanity's history, while human society was still largely consisted of hunter-gatherers, suggesting that they appeared during humanity's Stone Age or possibly even the Bronze Age. However, when the Shamans committed ritualistic suicide in order to bring about the creation of the Emperor, Psykers would not evolve again within the human species for at least another 22 millennia. As such, given the short lifespan of the Tau, combined with at least 6,000 years of additional evolution, could have led to the development of psychically sensitive individuals within Tau society. Many of these Tau may not even realize they are psychic, with their powers only manifesting in high-stress situations, and remain beyond the control of the individual, and even then may only be explained as being good luck or a fluke. But there is also another possibility in regards to Farsight's prophetic visions. When Farsight suffered his visions, he was exposed to varying amounts of warp energy. The first vision happened shortly after damaging a warp drive, causing demonic entities such as Furies and Helldrakes to enter the material realm. The second vision occurred whilst Farsight was battling with Pormalkeor, who was possessed by a demon of the Chaos god Tzeentch. So instead, could it be possible that Farsight is indeed not a Psyker, but was simply granted visions of the future due to warp-based energy washing over him, and in turn, his soul suffered something akin to a sensory overload? After all, Tau souls are extremely weak and dim compared to the souls of other races. As such, overexposure to warp energies in such confined areas, such as ship's corridors or a small room, could have caused Farsight to have seen the currents of the warp and see events yet to come as a result. This could also explain as to why Farsight suffered from migraines and nausea prior to his psychic visions. However, this is unlikely, as individuals who have brighter souls within the warp, such as Psykers, are actually more sensitive to the energies of warp space. Because of this actually strengthens the case of Farsight actually being a latent Psyker, whose own abilities were awoken due in part to this exposure to warp energy. But if Farsight is indeed a latent Psyker, could this mean that with training he could indeed grow in power? And could there indeed be any more Psykers within Tau society whose own abilities have yet to be awakened? What do you think? Could Farsight be a Psyker, or is it just coincidence? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.